People who say Girlfriends is toxic don't know the art of real storytelling. What's funny to me is that all the complaints people have about Girlfriends shows why it's actually a very good show. If you're not talking about the show and what the characters did and the storylines, then that means it's not a good show. The fact that 25 years after the show premiered, you're still talking about the show shows how good it actually is. Some people might argue that the show isn't relatable, that's not what real friendship is, but it is what real friendship is. Friendship isn't perfect, it's messy, people make mistakes, they're imperfect, but the love and care for each other always remains, and they show up for each other so many times. They may be shady, they may do things behind people's backs. A lot of the times, friendships are like relationships. You have to put in the work to make a friendship work. That's just what it is. Those low maintenance friendships that people are always talking about, they're terrible. You don't really want to be their friends. Those are your acquaintances. I have unpopular opinions about what an acquaintance is. So that's a whole nother conversation. The thing about Tony, Maya, Lynn, and Joan was that there was always an end goal as to where the characters are going to go. When it comes to a good, well-written show, there is a main plot that the character's journey is going to go on. So Joan always wanted to be married. She eventually got that with Aaron. Yes, we never saw the wedding, unfortunately, but we got there. You're following her journey. Tony wanted to marry Rich and she wanted security, but really she was deeply insecure and just wanted to find that true love, and she found that within her daughter. Lynn was always trying to find herself. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She eventually found that in music. Maya was a young mother, teen mother, and was just trying to find out who she was and really have a purpose outside of being a wife and a mother. And she found that by becoming an authoress, okay? And that's the journey we followed all of these women on. And they made mistakes and they were messy, but that's what life is about, finding yourself. You're not going to be perfect, and you're not even going to treat the people around you the best way. You're still trying to figure yourself out, and so along the way, you're going to make mistakes, and that's what life is about. That's what friendship is about. And having people who have your back and don't judge you and are there to support you through the messiness is what friendship is about, in my opinion. People sometimes say that William's character wasn't realistic. I disagree. It showed a man who actually is comfortable with his sexuality, and also that men and women can be friends. A lot of people have come up with this theory that he was gay. I feel like you're ignorant, in my personal opinion, because there's so many men who are like William, who are quirky, who aren't, your typical kind of trope of a black man. There's men who are like this. They're nerds, and that's what to me was great about the show, was that it showed that Black people aren't a monolith. We're all different. And William was a representation of that. I wouldn't say I was like William, but there's a lot of Black men who I know who are just like William. I think a lot of people don't even look at some of the storylines that Girlfriends even really touched on. They talked openly about sex. They use a lot of vulgar language. They talk about fibroids. They talked about, sex before marriage, interracial dating. They talk about HIV, AIDS, all that stuff that was very taboo in the late 90s and early 2000s, and they addressed it. And they not only addressed it in a comedic way, but they did it in a formal way that was able to mix perfectly comedy and drama together. And it was great, even when they spoke about plastic surgery and getting older, and Tony's hilarious episode where she got that Botox and her eyebrow was just all the way up here, they spoke about how these beauty standards affect women, but people don't look at that. You're not looking at all of the different storylines and the messaging and what they were getting across to their audience, but you're just here throwing around the word toxic. I just feel like when you look at your own friendships, are you seeing yourself in Girlfriends? Are you having the perfect dynamic? Because online, people are so quick to talk about what's toxic outside and projecting their emotions and thoughts and feelings onto shows and other things. But what's going on in your life? Are you that toxic friend? Do you have toxic friends like this? We probably all do, but we all need to potentially let them go, And sometimes it's about figuring that out. What the show also did was showing that how sometimes we will hold on to things that we do need to let go. Have you thought about that? A lot of people feel like the show dropped in quality when Jill Marie Jones left. I personally don't think it did. I think season 7, when it just became the three of them, is probably one of the strongest seasons of the show. And I think people need to kind of give this another rewatch because it's actually very, very, very good. And please, whoever needs to give Mara Brockerkill that 50 million that she wants to make the movie, please do it because there is such a high demand for this show.